Hey everyone, GameCube with Fries here with another collection video, and this time I'm going to be going over my 3DS collection. This is probably my favorite handheld system of all time, next to the Game Boy Advance. It just has a very nice, diverse selection of games. You have a lot of really fantastic first-party Nintendo games, and it's also had some really great third-party games from companies like Capcom and Atlas. So I figure I might as well dig right in and show you what I've got so far. Is Animal Crossing New Leaf. And the only Animal Crossing games I've played are this and the one for the Nintendo Wii. I believe it was called City Folk. And this is definitely the better of the two. This sort of trims away a lot of the early repetitive stuff that Animal Crossing games usually force you to go through, and just lets you get straight into the fun stuff. You only have to spend a little bit of time sort of going through the initial chores before you can start going around, ordering town projects, collecting stuff. This is just a very relaxing game. It's not the most engaging or, challenging game, but it's not really supposed to be. It's more of one of those games where you just sort of kick back and do whatever. This is really fun. I enjoy Animal Crossing. It's good to play when I am not in a very good mood. On the flip side of that, Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, which is essentially a handheld port of the Wii game, Donkey Kong Country Returns. And this is an extremely challenging platformer. I've actually still haven't finished this. I got to the end of World 7, I believe. Pretty far, but I just reached a point where I didn't want to play anymore. It was just getting a little too crazy. But this is a really, really well-made game. Retro Studios did a great job with this. They're the same studio that made the Metroid Prime trilogy, which is another really good bunch of games. This is terrific. This is probably the best platformer on the 3DS, or one of the best. If it feels a little different than the older Donkey Kong Country games. The controls feel a bit more weighty, like you can really feel the weight of the character as you move. It requires you to be a bit more precise. The pacing is a little bit slower, but once you get used to it, it's really nice how well they balance it out. The boss fights get a little bit ridiculous, though. That's really my only complaint, is that the bosses go way overboard in terms of difficulty. They're easily the hardest thing about that game. We have Fire Emblem Awakening, which I still haven't finished. I've been trying to get back into this one because I wasn't really that big on it when I first got it. I think it was earlier this year. I'm starting to lose track of time really bad. But I can definitely see the appeal. There's a lot of, you have to really think about it. It is a strategy RPG, and I'm kind of liking it a little bit more. I've been playing it on and off again, started another playthrough, and I am starting to realize how I'm supposed to play it. It just, it does feel a little bit repetitive, but I can definitely see myself enjoying this a lot more if I can just set aside some time to really dig into it. Kid Icarus Uprising, which is essentially kind of an on-rails arcade-style shooter. I've heard it compared to Sin and Punishment. From what I've seen of Sin and Punishment, that definitely seems like a good comparison. I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I've actually I think I've played through it multiple times. I'm not sure. Back when this came out, there weren't very many new 3DS games coming out. And this was just a huge breath of fresh air. It was absolutely terrific playing through this. Loads of fun. There is actually some pretty decent challenge here. You can adjust the difficulty level to get better equipment. There's a pretty solid multiplayer mode. Just really great package overall. A lot of people complain about the controls, which is a pretty valid complaint. The touchscreen controls, if you don't use the 3DS stand that comes with the game, they actually can lead to several cramps, but you can actually change it so you move the cursor with the face buttons, which is actually my preferred method of control. So I actually highly recommend this. Very, very good stuff. Not really anything like the old Kid Icarus games, but just look at it as its own game, and it's fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, we have The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. And man, talk about not judging a book by its cover. I was ready to hate this game when it was announced because it basically just looked like they were going to do a rehash of Link to the Past. Then I played it because I started to hear really good things about it, and it's probably my favorite Zelda next to Wind Waker. This is a terrific game. I love how they sort of switch up the traditional formula. You can rent the items and then later on buy them. It really gives you the sense of freedom, like, well, I'll buy this item and I can go out and explore the different dungeons, see how they work. It really brought back that feeling of adventure that, you used to get from playing games as a kid. And that's really quite a feat, I think. I absolutely adore this game. It's very smooth. The gameplay, there's so much done right here. It just surprised the hell out of me when it came out. I absolutely, cannot wait to see where they take the series with the Wii U one next year. Link Between Worlds is absolutely fantastic. And another really good 3DS game, probably one of the best on the system next to Link Between Worlds, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. And this is absolutely fantastic. They took everything, they kind of turned the formula on its head a little bit. They didn't just make another Luigi's Mansion, they kind of broke it up and made it mission-based, but it really works because each mission takes you through different parts of each mansion, and it just feels really fresh and varied. And I just, as a huge fan of the original Luigi's Mansion, I just had a huge fucking grin on my face almost the whole time I was playing this. I actually played through it again after I finished it, and that is extremely rare. Very few. I do that with very few games, so this is terrific. If you have a 3DS, definitely pick it up. If you don't have a 3DS, what the fuck are you doing? Go buy one. Probably my least favorite 3DS game I've played so far, New Super Mario Bros. 2. And this isn't a bad game, it's just a decent game. The level design feels kind of lazy. There's nothing really remarkable about it. Nothing really sticks out that much. It just feels like you're sort of average, here's another Mario game. Again, it's not bad, but I can definitely say, I wouldn't buy this over something like Mario 3D Land or Donkey Kong Country Returns. Here we have Paper Mario Sticker Star, and people hate the shit out of this game. I really don't understand. It's not your traditional Paper Mario game. It doesn't measure up to the original or Thousand Year Door at all. It's really not even fair to compare the two. They're completely different games. But I sort of looked at this as sort of a fun little spin-off, and it's really good. I was really enjoying this a lot. I do have some frustrations with it. The boss fights in particular are pretty low points. Some of the puzzles get infuriatingly vague. But I think that they tried so many fresh new ideas with this, and people just rip on it so much, People like to rip on Nintendo because, they don't ever try anything new. They just regurgitate the same series over and over. And yet here we have a genuinely creative new game in a series, and people just trash the hell out of it. There's no pleasing some people. I have gone on to say that this is probably going to go down as, one of the underrated gems of this generation. I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot. A lot of people didn't. Whatever. Resident Evil: The Mercenaries 3D. And this is a really fun sort of arcade-style game. It's a really neat pick-up-and-play kind of game. You have these different missions and encourages you to replay them. None of them last too long. It's just fast-paced enough. It feels really nice. It feels like they took the Mercenaries mode from Resident Evil 4, which was very fun, and sort of expanded it into its own little game. I believe it's probably gone down in price by this point. It's a very old 3DS game. This is actually the first 3DS game I ever got. I got it on sale for like $20, and it's definitely worth the $20. I wouldn't have paid full price for this. But if you can find this for a decent price, I would definitely recommend it. You just might be surprised. It's a really enjoyable little game. And here we have another Resident Evil, Resident Evil Revelations, and this is terrific. This is probably one of the best Resident Evil games to come out in years. It brings back a lot of survival horror elements. It isn't a straight survival horror game, but it feels more like Resident Evil 4, where it is still an action game, but it balances it out and doesn't go over the top like something like 5 did. Or even 6, even though I still stand by my opinion that 6 is actually a good game. This is definitely a really great game, and even if you don't have a 3DS, you should still pick it up, because this did get ported to, I think, pretty much every console that was out at the time: 360, PS3, Wii U, and I think it's even out on Steam. Really, really awesome game, and can't wait to play Revelations 2 when that comes out next year. It's just a shame we're not getting like a version for the 3DS or even the new 3DS. Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner Soul Hackers. This is yet another RPG that I picked up, thought I was going to get into, and never really did, and it's just kind of been sitting on my shelf, and I'll occasionally pick it up and try to have a go at it. This one's a bit tricky to get into just because it is very much an old-school SMT game. A lot of the stuff that I like about the more recent ones I've played, like 4 and Nocturne, isn't really present in this one. The combat system is a lot more stiff, a lot more old, very, very simple menu-based combat. It's still very challenging, definitely feels like an SMT game. I just had trouble getting into it, is all. Again, another RPG that I have to set aside some time for. But this one, on the other hand, Shin Megami Tensei 4, which is, in my opinion, the best game on the 3DS. This is absolutely fantastic. This is one of the best RPGs I've ever played. It's up there with, the Paper Mario games, I think. I think it's even better than those. Just in terms of how they balanced out the high level of challenge that goes with this series, but also made it more accessible so it wasn't completely frustrating. I got really frustrated with this game at several points, and I still haven't finished it, but I spent around 45 hours on this. I actually really dug into it and spent, I think about a straight month playing it. I really enjoyed my time with this game, and the combat system is terrific. There's tons of side quests. In fact, you almost have to do all or most of the side quests just to get yourself to a decent level. But it never feels repetitive. That's what really struck me about this. A lot of JRPGs I get burnt out on, because for me at least they get a bit repetitive as you get into them. And I never really got that with this one. It feels like it stays fresh through the whole game. Even when you hit that sort of 20-hour long point where almost nothing happens in the story, it's just fun to go around and explore this post-apocalyptic overworld, go through these areas, do side quests. There's always something to do, and the combat is just fast-paced enough so that it never really feels repetitive. And it's challenging too. It's a really hard game. It hits, like I said, it hits that nice balance between being a tough, challenging RPG while also managing to be a lot more accessible than pretty much any other game in the series, which is really impressive. Can't wait to see what they do next with the series. And lastly, we have another one of the first games I got on 3DS, Super Mario 3D Land. And this is a really good platformer. If you're going to get one of the Mario games for 3DS, definitely make it this one. I had a lot of fun playing through this. It starts out really easy, but it gets surprisingly difficult as you progress. It's sort of split into two halves. You have the normal worlds, which are generally pretty easy, but then when you get into the special worlds that you unlock after you beat the main game, that's really when a lot of the game's challenge opens up. And it's a lot of fun finding all the collectibles, unlocking new levels. It's simplistic. It's not quite on the same level as something like Super Mario Galaxy, But it's definitely a very enjoyable game that you should definitely look into if you have a 3DS. Alright, and inserting this here a couple weeks after the fact, I also picked up Super Smash Bros. For 3DS, and this is really, really great so far. Probably one of my favorite Smash Bros. Games I've played. I've only played Melee, Brawl, and this, and I definitely say that in terms of the core gameplay mechanics, this is the one I enjoy the most. It feels like they really balanced everything out from Brawl and expanded the roster at the same time. The single-player aspect of this game feels a little anemic. There's not really a whole lot here. There's no adventure mode. There's no event matches. But the core gameplay is great. There is a lot of replayability, a lot of stuff to unlock, tons of different characters to play as. I think there's like close to 50 characters in this. Just really, really worthwhile game. Can't wait. Absolutely can't wait for the Wii U Smash Brothers next month. So anyway, that was my 3DS collection. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.